Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ranger's Respite. It is Saturday, and it is time for a Lost Lantern Saturday video. As you may have guessed, I'm recording a bunch of these all at once. And as promised, today I have uh, a really interesting bottle of bourbon out of Mississippi from a distillery that is permanently closed. But before I get into details on that, ladies and gentlemen, if you like these videos, if you like what I do, I am not sponsored by Lost Lantern yet. Come on, Adam, please. Um, but if you'd like to support me, liking, commenting, and subscribing always help. They push these videos in the algorithm. If you'd like to support the Virginia Whiskey Tournament, which is something that I run, there will be a video about in more detail soon, including a live stream on the Single Malt Frontier and here. But if you would like something, maybe not a t-shirt design from Spreadshirt, I have these ballpoint twist pens and rollerball pens. These are made from Quercus Robert French oak cognac cask stave. It held cognac for 45 years before being used to finish a peated American single malt in the Pacific Northwest. If you know, you know. There's a link in the description down below. I really appreciate any interest in those. And I have pens made from other woods like walnut catalpa, which is a really cool native hardwood. And before I get into any of that, or rather than get into any of that, let's talk about this. Rich Grain Distilling Company, Mississippi Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Distilled and aged in Canton, Mississippi. Bottled at natural cask strength at 70.4% alcohol by volume. That is 140.8 proof. It is distilled from a mash of 66% Mississippi grown corn, 17% rye, and 17% malted barley, aged for 7 years in a 30-gallon barrel. This is one of 75 bottles, which, as it stands right now, may be a bottle from the smallest outrun of anything that I own, except for maybe the Spirit Lab Distilling single malt. But look at that color. It is dark, rich in color. It's sort of like an almost rust color. On the nose, it is a beast. Not because of alcohol fumes, because surprisingly, this is easy on the alcohol fumes. It is bursting with light spice, caramel, brown sugar, a little bit of like a tannic edge. I mean, 7 years in Mississippi, it's going to have plenty of barrel influence, but I think that's where that like brown sugar and caramel comes from. It's got a little bit of like honeysuckle. This is a very springtime bourbon, if I'm being totally honest. Which is an interesting counterpoint because usually when I'm pouring myself a little bit of this, I'm also pouring myself, and I don't, here it is, a little bit of this Rocktown. And this Rocktown screams summer to me. But this, despite being from the very end of a distillery's life, just to me speaks of spring and new beginnings and bright mornings. A good match for a cool spring evening. Oh, it is rich and oily. Really surprisingly oily for being so high in proof. Mm. on the palate. On the palate, it's a little bit drying, but you've got this huge burst of like a cedar wood, uh, a little bit of honey, some caramel. There's a little, just a hint of like cut and dried vegetation. Some light bitterness. If you breathe too deeply after taking a swallow, you'll find yourself breathing in alcohol fumes. Ooh. The finish. The finish is surprisingly delicate, like graham cracker and a little bit of honey and that like bitter oak tannin. It just goes on and on. There's like like little fades in and out of various notes. And right at the very end, there's this note of like honeysuckle. It's really quite interesting and beautiful. This is genuinely a surprisingly gentle dram for being 70% alcohol. It is so rich, and I could very likely sit here for 15-20 minutes just picking it apart and telling you what I've found, but we don't have time for that. And much like Singularity, which I found and maybe didn't explain well enough in the video, I found that there's too much underneath that heavy finish to really get a good delve into it in such a short video. And this is a similar sort of phenomena. There's almost like a little bit of ginger snap in there too. Beautiful. Mm. Mm. Snickerdoodle. Oh, beautiful. Well, I always ask and answer 3 questions. This one is going to be kind of complex. I mean, the first one is really easy. First question, do I enjoy it? Abso-fucking-lutely. This is a beautiful whiskey, and I wish that I had more of it. Genuinely, I really do. Second question is it a good value? Yes, or it was. It is now no longer available, as you might have guessed, because it is an outrun of 75 bottles. There was not a lot of this stuff to begin with, and it sold out within hours. I frankly was very fortunate to have gotten a bottle of it. And the third and final question is, do I recommend it? And this one, I really don't think I can answer, because while I would love to say, yes, absolutely, if you see Rich Grain Distilling, pick it up. They were not the biggest distillery in the world. So unlike facilities like Brora or Port Helen or, some of the other large ghost distilleries, um, you, you really are unlikely to happen across any Rich Grain Distilling products. But if you do, I urge you to pick it up and give it a try. If for no other reason than to have an example of a fantastic whiskey that just the world wasn't ready for. And it's always sad to see a distillery that made such fantastic whiskey, because make no mistake, this is amazing stuff that didn't make it. And that really sucks. And so as not to be a downer, I will end on the note of Monday's video is going to be lots of fun. I'm going to ruffle some feathers in a friendly, polite way, as I usually do on my Monday videos. Sometimes it's less than polite. But all of that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me as I rambled about this wonderful whiskey for about 10 minutes. Until next time, stay happy, stay geeks. Sláinte.